Hi, I'm Deacon Nick, and I'd like to recap on some of the things that we were talking about, the 12 steps of humility of St. Benedict's. And what we'd like to do is to just kind of recap in the 12 steps and see what we come up with. To achieve the high degree of holiness, we said that there were 12 things that you had to do. And with these 12 steps of humility, Benedict broke down for us. We said at the end of the session, bloom where you're planted. The second thing we said was humility is a quality of living a full life. Thirdly, we said that God is not a goal to be achieved, but God is a presence that must be reckoned with. We also says that humility is the liberation of self. And then we said humility is the foundation of inner serenity and peace. And now today what I'd like to do is to touch on accepting spiritual direction and perseverance. Rabbi Ibn Gabriel wrote, "Ambition is bondage." And Napoleon Bonaparte said, "There are two powers in the world. The power of the sword and the power of the spirit. And in the long run, the power of the sword would be conquered by the power of the spirit." Every day we find ourselves between these two powers. The newspapers, the televisions, and the media are all full of gruesome stories and pictures and photographs, people killing each other, terrorist reports, etc. We read and look at television and we say to ourselves, we're living in a very violent society. I think that the problem may be that too few of us ask, why is this society so violent? Benedict of Nursia says, what the world really lacks is humility, because humility is the antidote, it is the cure for rash violence, rash power. The very idea runs contrary to our way of thinking. We take power, struggles, blind ambition, and violence for granted. We even call them healthy. When children talk back to their parents and they try to get the upper hand, we smile and we say that they're experiencing their independence. When the same young people who relied on us for guidance refuse restraint, believing that they have a right to do anything that they want, we boast about how mature they're getting. We even say they're feeling their Cheerios. As they get older and enter middle age, they become disillusioned. They become depressed. And they become unsatisfied. And we find that this is happening more frequently at an even earlier and earlier age. What's happening is they're striving for the unattainable. And they fall in failure. They become restless and limited in their pursuit. Their marriages fail. They find themselves psychologically breaking up, breaking down. And then what they do is they retreat to addictions of all sorts. And then they wonder what went wrong. This state that they find themselves in is not merely a psychological one, but it is a deeply spiritual one. Benedict tells us that the first two degrees of humility is to recognize that God is with us, and that we must also recognize that God knows what is best for us. The third and fourth degree of humility tell us that we must learn to take directions from others who have already reached, for example, a sense of spirituality. That we must endure the rigors and continue to learn if we're going to learn anything about spirituality. The first two degrees of humility, we learn our place in the universe. And the second two degrees of humility, open ourselves up to the fact that there is also a place that others have in this universe. The first two are about awareness, and the second two about conforming or coming into spiritual adulthood by accepting the wisdom and gifts and powers of others. My brothers and sisters, to work on your spiritual life, to exercise these 12 degrees of humility are not easy. They kind of run contrary to what we've been taught. When we think of humility, we think of being put down, being humble. But that's not the humility that we're talking about. We're talking about humility that allows us to recognize that God is present to us and that His will is best for us. I thank you for listening, and I ask you to send your questions in, and I'm open to discussion. Thank you, and God bless you.